Number 11, solve the quadratic equation below twice. Once using the zero product property and once using the quadratic formula. Verify that the solutions from both methods are the same. So let's do it first using the zero product property. Remember that when we use the zero product property, I need to take my original quadratic equation and I need to write it as a product of two factors. And the way that I'm going to do this is by factoring with a generic rectangle and a diamond. So let's do that. The x squared term goes in the lower left corner of the rectangle. The constant term goes in the upper right corner, and then we multiply those to get the top of the diamond. This would be 18x squared. This x term goes on the bottom of the diamond, and now we've got to figure out what are two x terms where the numbers add to negative 19 and multiply to positive 18. This might seem a little tricky because it's a little obvious, maybe not so much, but anyway, this would be negative 1x and negative 18x. Because negative 1 times negative 18 is positive 18, but then when you add these two numbers, you get negative 19. And so now we put these terms back into the generic rectangle, and we find the dimensions of this rectangle. 2x times x is 2x squared. That makes this a negative 9. That makes this a negative 1. And so now we can rewrite our equation as 2x minus 1 times x minus 9 equals 0. You could put the x minus 9 before the 2x minus 1. It doesn't matter. But what we're going to do now is take each factor and set it equal to 0. That's what the zero product property means. When you're multiplying two factors and you get 0, one of them has to equal 0. So either 2x minus 1 equals 0 or x minus 9 is equal to 0. And now we just solve for x. Here we get 1/2. Here we get 9. And we're done. Well, not actually. We're done with this method. Let's do the quadratic formula now. Remember that to use the quadratic formula, I need to figure out what my A, B, and C values are because my formula requires that I use these values. So if I rewrite this quadratic equation, A is always the number in front of x squared. B is always the number in front of x. And C is always the constant term. And if you are missing any of these terms, you can just plug in 0 for whatever that missing term is. And our formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we plug all of these values in. So I plug in negative 19 here, put parentheses around everything that you're plugging in. It makes a difference, especially when you're plugging in. Why can't I erase this? Especially when you're plugging in a negative number, it does make a difference. Okay, plugging in 2 here. If you need to do this on your paper too, do it. Write out the formula, write out A, B, and C, and then like erase and plug in like I'm doing here, if that helps you. Okay, and now term by term, we're going to simplify. I have a negative 19 out front. When I have two negatives, that turns into a positive. And so I have positive 19 plus or minus the square root of, let's see, Negative 19 squared is positive, let me do this on my calculator, 361. And then I put minus, and I'm going to put parentheses, and what I'm going to put in the parentheses is the product of these three numbers. Okay, I'm just going to multiply these three numbers together. 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 9 is 72. So right here I put 72. All over 4, since 2 times 2 is 4, and then we keep simplifying. 19 plus or minus the square root of 361 minus 72 is 289. And then the square root of 289 is 17. Okay, now I can split these up because of that plus minus. I'm going to have 19 plus 17 over 4 and 19 minus 17 over 4. And be careful if you plug this into your calculator. If you're trying to simplify this in your calculator and you put 19 plus 17 divided by 4, what your calculator is going to do is follow PEMDAS. So they're going to do 17 divided by 4 first, which is not what we want. We want to do 19 plus 17 first. So, oops. So if you do plug this into your calculator, make sure you put parentheses around what you're trying to add first, okay? And then enter it in. But by hand, let's see what this is. 19 plus 17 is 36. And 36 divided by 4 is 9. There's my first solution. 19 minus 17 is 2, and 2 over 4 can be simplified to 1/2. So here you can see that we have 9 and 1/2 as our solutions for this quadratic, whether we're using the zero product property or the quadratic formula. So the solutions are the same, which is what we want. If they're not the same, that means that there might be something that you need to fix, okay? And that is the last problem of this review, so email me if you have any questions or want some extra practice problems possibly.